what you said on paper.
I wish that I could freely dream and be judged from within, hunted by a power that cannot see past my skin. My views are viewed as ignorant, my truth always denied. My history is shrouded in a spider web of lies. Isn't this America? Or is this America all a lie?
Of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read.
Well, good morning. Welcome to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. I'm your host, Larry Ellison. In studio, my co-host, my brothers for another. To my right, the Rhodes Scholar.
Good morning.
Oh, okay, you all right?
Yes.
You good? You good?
Yes.
Well, the brother's still awake, man.
I know.
He's trying to get himself awake.
I had to give him a little elbow last week. Yeah, elbow room. He's over there.
You can be seen, you know.
Yes.
Right. And heard.
Yes.
And to his right, my right.
Peace.
Brother, Dr. Bradley, the doctor is in the house, ready to give
Peace.
you a checkup from the neck up.
It's not very healthy, brother.
It's not.
The situation is not very healthy.
We're going to get into that, brother. But you know, Dr. Bradley, I said, folks, sometimes they listen to some of our rebroadcasts.
Yeah.
All we have to do is let it play.
That's all.
Because we've been telling folks, warning folks, sitting on the couch, this is not a spectator sport. If you didn't vote, and so I live in Massachusetts, but I told folks, if you have family in some of these other states that are not voting, they feel like it's not affecting me, how's that working out for you?
Well, Alabama's going to feel it very shortly, man.
I have my family up visiting from Mississippi. My uncle, matter of fact, I want to say happy birthday to M.L. Parkman. 98 years old.
Wow.
He's turned 98 this weekend.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And, they're saying how bad it is. I said, yeah, that's what Dodd came out of. And they were saying how people down there, I didn't realize it was going to affect people that look like them. It thought it was just going to be people that look like us. And now they're seeing that.
Look, Alabama's complaining about the $160 million contract, a $360 million shortfall of money that they use to hire people to deal with chronic issues in the state. Well, he abruptly just stopped it.
What did they think the federal money that they thought they could go in there and just only immigration and all this and then all the stuff he lied about? We're going to get into that in a second because I think in the Project 2025, I mean, it was right there for
Larry, this is what happens when hatred is driving your voting decisions in the booth.
Can you say that
This
again?
is when hatred drives your voting decision. This is what happens because you don't begin to think about, hey, this can come back on me.
Right.
And also, I think it's also the fact that, again, people rely on just the headlines to make their decisions. They don't actually go into the details, into the weeds of the issue to actually find out what's going on.
It's right there.
And so, unfortunately, they make harsh and quick, impulsive, emotional decisions and not thinking about logically how it actually affects them. So,
and this hole is getting bigger, with this national security thing. But we're going to get said, good morning, Pastor Hobbs.
Yes,
How are you,
morning.
sir?
Good morning. Well, thank you.
While we have you there, sir, if you wouldn't mind praying, because
we definitely need it.
I think all of us need to
Yes,
join
we
in.
do.
Absolutely. Father God, we do bless you. We give you praise for this day that you made, and we just honor you, knowing that you're sovereign, that you're all-powerful, you're all-knowing, and you are a very present help in the time of needs. We call upon you even on now to do what only you're able to do, surrender this broadcast, our lives, and every circumstance into your hands. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Again, you're listening to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. The calling number here is 617-282-0685. 617-282-0685. We want to thank our sponsors, The Money Store. For all your mortgage needs, give branch manager Coral Holbrook a call at area code 508-345-4726. Also want to thank Cruz Construction for their continued support of At the Round Table with MAMLEO. I want to remind the MAMLEO members as well, it's National Women's Month. And MAMLEO will be honoring a lot of the pioneers in law enforcement, but in other fields as well at MAMLEO headquarters today at 1 p.m. The public is invited. Come down, see who these great women are in our lives. For those of us who I can say for myself, and I know my brother Dr. Bradley, probably Rose, the women in our lives have shaped us, influenced us
Absolutely.
in a way that I think doesn't get the credit it deserves.
Recognition.
I came from a single family mom, she's no longer here,
Yeah.
but I did have men, but I tell you,
Moms back then held it down.
listen, I was in the delivery room with my wife both times, and I said I couldn't do it.
I was same here. I hit the floor, Doc, and I was like, get this guy out of
Right,
here.
so we already got one. Here we have. Now we got to take care of you. So get out of here. Want to say hearty good morning to Mr. and Mrs. Harry Scales. I was able to see Harry, unfortunately, at the passing of Peter King Jr. He was at a service this past Thursday. Our hearts and prayers are with the family as they're going through this most difficult time, as you say, to such a young life. Gone so tragically early in life, but I got a chance to see some folks I hadn't seen in a long time. It's almost sad that we only kind of get together
At funerals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Awakes.
Yeah. I
It's-
mean, people like last time I saw them was
Well, every time we try to peaceably gather together, for some reason the power structure has a problem with us peaceably assembling. So
exactly. I'm gonna say good morning to Brother Jamal. Good morning to Brother Dick. Good morning, Brother Cliff. Good morning to Sister Denise. Good morning to all of those avid listeners out there who continue to listen and support this broadcast. Like we said, we are also doing a fundraiser here. So, folks, if you want to donate to support this broadcast, actually, that would go towards supporting this radio station so we can keep it going here. Like I said, I want to thank Brother Harry Scales for his generous donation to the broadcast. But like I said, we have to keep this going. We have so much that is taking place in this country.
Amen.
We want to be able to bring this to you Monday through Friday. It's not at the round table with MAMLEO, but we're information to affect you, to empower you, and we can't do that without your financial support.
You're empowered with knowledge, my friend.
Yes.
You get the facts here.
Well, you see, even they're going after, like it's and we're gonna get more in detail than that. But we know with dictators and autocrats, they're going after public radio, anything that has an independent mindset. This is all out of the Hitler playbook. Like I said, folks, if you read Mein Kampf, this is straight out of it. And also the Project 2025. Well, we're going to go down here and see if people claims that Donald Trump claimed he didn't know anything about it. The person who wrote it is now his chief advisor. And you look at it, it's not like they hid it.
I whenever Trump, member of his cabinet, goes to Russia, my point is that they're going to get their instructions.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think Putin's plan. He's a martinet here. He's behind the scene, manipulating the whole thing.
I
Man.
think they're laughing and saying we didn't think it would be this easy to install a useful idiot, and that the people in the United States, because they, like you said, they're deep rooted, and in my opinion, in racism.
Yes,
So deep rooted.
and again, because it is so deep rooted, and again, their refusal to actually acknowledge that isn't an issue.
Yeah.
So that whole cognitive dissonance, again, it's being used against them.
So hold that for 1 second, because we can't forget our brother.
Oh, yes.
We
Who's
got
probably
to
on
ride.
this stuff.
You got to ride, Doc.
Where we going?
Good morning, Brother Bridgeforth. We didn't forget you, brother. Matter of fact, it even makes Pastor Hobbs smile. I know when that comes on. It brings back memories to those of us who were back then, Jackson 5. A lot of young people don't know, like, who is the Jackson 5? So say, good morning, Brother Bridgeforth. So, again, folks, we're going to sit here and try to help you to understand what is going on in the world. Dr. Bradley, you are a military guy, so I really want to pick your brain.
Yes,
but
sir.
also, you fall into several of these categories. And Brother Rose, I want you to weigh in as well, because I want to find out what is going on with our brothers and sisters in the Haitian community, because there's a lot of fear out there, and it's designed the way that they're going on these college campuses and grabbing people who are here legally.
Yes.
And trying to point a point in that, the Secretary of State saying, well, if you are peacefully protesting or, free speech, if it's counter to what Donald Trump
No,
wants.
that's not the law. The law is
Exactly.
free speech,
Well,
period.
I think Dr. King said it right. This is supposed to be a country where you have a right to protest for rights.
Right.
You know, and not being harassed by the people who carry badges, which is what we did as a profession.
Right.
You should not be harassed and should not be, shipped up, bagged up, and shipped off without due process.
Right.
You know, pretty much.
You know how many times that I had to safeguard the rights and listen
Exactly.
to the Ku Klux Klan
Yeah.
and other Nazi groups, right?
Don't agree with them, but I had to do my job.
Exactly. You know, and stand there and protect other people from killing them.
Yeah.
Because I understood that how I felt about that, I took an oath
Yeah.
to uphold that, and that if I'm not mistaken, because they always go back to the founders, right? That I thought their expectation was that for the peaceful protest, and that they didn't want kings anymore. They had ran from that, right? And now here we are. We have a monarchy again.
Well, again, 1984 and Animal Farm, perfect examples of this is what the intention was, but again, the reality is what we've become.
Well, see, the point is though, that the country was founded on protests.
Yes.
That was really
Again, exactly, what they did was considered an act of treason, an act of terror. They were considered terrorists to the king.
as Franklin said, either we vote together or we're going to hang together.
Right,
I mean,
right,
literally.
right,
You know
right.
what I mean? So it was founded on protest,
right.
and so the fact that you don't have a right
Right.
to protest for rights
Right.
goes against the the beginning and the founding of the nation.
Right.
You know?
So let's unpack. So here's
Yeah.
something I was pulling. You looking at the Project 2025 doctrine, right? So it said, secure the border, finish building the wall, right? Which the wall really never got started. And did Mexico pay for that last wall that we were supposed to build? Right? Deport illegal,
I'm good, brother. I'm just-
deport illegal aliens. De-weaponize the federal government by increasing accountability and oversight over the FBI and DOJ. So we should take out that D, because what they've done is weaponized the federal government by decreasing accountability and oversight of the FBI and Department of Justice. I think for the first, I heard the Attorney General attacking judges.
Yes, and that again, right there is a line that we should not be crossing.
No, I mean,
Again, they're supposed to be
historically-
independent, and their decision is supposed to be adhered to. It could say, if you respect the law, you're supposed to. When the judge makes a decision, you're supposed to respect the decision, not say, "Okay, when I get rid of the judge, I want the judge to make my decision the right decision." So,
Well, to that, and to just to further on that, like in John Roberts, who they created this monster, the Supreme
absolutely.
Court,
Yes, they
right?
did.
When basically saying that president has unfeathered
Yep.
check on him and that he can do whatever he wants, and he took that literally. And now they're trying to put the genie back in the bottle, and I don't think that's going to work.
Nope.
Because as we've said, and Dr. Bradley pointed out
So
to me,
I
never
hope
thought about
the Supreme Court gets arrested,
They have
and
no
then they
enforcement-
learn.
Well, they
Yeah,
have no enforcement power.
No,
right?
they don't.
And you look at some of these autocratic countries, what they do is they put these judges in jail that don't agree with them, right?
Yep.
So they're coming for the small people, but then they're coming for them.
Well, see, and that, I think people need to understand, and why I do understand the stress that our people have with the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
But I think that attacking the judges, attacking that equal branch of judiciary that was put in place as the big brother in the
balance,
room,
exactly.
because the founders knew that the legislative branch, the branch of the people, and the executive branch, the branch of one individual who heading, was going to be contentious, and there's going to be aggravation between those two. But that's how you get things done. But you needed to have someone in the room that will actually be able to hold the line. That's the purpose of the judiciary. And so if Trump and Vance and all these other idiots are clowns, and I call it what it is, all right? These clowns would stop and look at the history. Judiciary branch has been reviewing laws ever since Marlboro versus Madison. You know what I mean? If you just look at the history, that's what they do. So the idea of impeaching a judge for making for doing his or her job it's ridiculous.
Well, and in most cases, it's interpreting the Constitution the way they claim that they want it, right? Judges that are looking at the Constitution, like this whole thing about saying that. I mean, maybe I missed it because I haven't been consuming as much news as some folks, but When did when did Venezuela attack us? When did we go to war with Venezuela? Because you're declaring that, according to the Constitution, according to this rule, that we did this and we interned our Japanese brothers and sisters, right? And it's the only time that this is supposed to be used. And when we are at war, a war on drugs is not a war. And Venezuela has not attacked the United States.
It's not an invasion force, but this is the hit, Larry. This is the hit. This is Dr. Bradley speaking. Every individual in this country who claims to be free should be utterly appalled by the idea that someone who carries a badge around his or her neck or on their belt or on their chest can stop you and cuff you and throw you on a bus and ship you out of the country without due process. That should be alarming to every American who's sitting in this country who claim that we are free.
This goes to what we talk about quite a bit here, the history, right?
Yeah.
Is that this is what happened in Nazi Germany. This is what's happening now in countries like North Korea, Russia, people who disagree with the government, right? We're seeing it here now, like what happened to this tough student recently.
Yeah.
I mean, who would not be put up a fight if some mass people jumped out and a bunch of them came and surrounded you and said, we're taking you here? Who's going to believe that in this climate, right?
Well, the other thing too, Larry, and I don't know who these cops were, you know what I mean? But I'm telling you, I'm looking at this, I'm saying to myself, who trained you guys? Because the first thing whenever I stopped a person as a police officer, I made sure that I had the justifiable, articulable reason to do it. You know what I mean? 'Cause I can sit back, which means that I can write or articulate, speak. This is my reason, and this is my rationale. This is what happened. This is what made this individual, out of all the people that are around him or her, jump out to me that this individual freedom need to be interrupted.
Right.
So I'm saying to myself, how are you stopping this individual just for writing or participating in an op-ed? What happened to free speech?
That's what I'm talking about. And if with people, how many times we said when they come in for that speech, yours is next.
Yours is next.
There you go.
And a lot of these people, like Secretary of State Marco Rubio,
They know better.
Well,
even
came
his
from
vice
parents.
president. But
His
even
parents are like from Cuba. Like, he should know.
But they had it right the first time when they were running against him, when Rubio was, and even Vance, when he said that Donald Trump was Hitler, was his modern day Hitler.
Yes.
When Marco Rubio described Trump in the terms that he did, he was right. And now all of a sudden they're in the cabinet, they're working for him, and they know, but they want to be so close to power.
Yes. That's what it is.
That they would sell their soul to the devil, because that's just
what they did.
done.
That's what basically did.
How many times, like I said, there's very little I agree with Liz Cheney on policies and politics. And everybody said, the second term, there will be no guardrails. There will be no one in his administration
that's going to say no to him.
It's going to say no.
Yeah.
I mean, the Justice Department, come on, de-weaponizing it. Everything he's doing, he said right out in front.
And then, again, the Supreme Court should be held liable for this decision that they've
They
made.
created a monster.
Exactly. When they said that it is immune.
Unchecked.
Like, oh, no, if you're president, you can do whatever you want. Again.
No, that's what kings did.
That's exactly.
That's what Vladimir Putin does.
Yeah.
And Kim Jong-un, that's what
That's not
dictators
America.
do.
Exactly.
Well, it is now.
Now. You're right.
It is now. 617-282-0685. 617-282-0685 is the number. So the other things in here, right, was make federal bureaucrats more accountable to the democratically elected president and Congress. Well, basically,
he wasn't democratically elected.
Right.
Okay, the majority of people did not actually vote for him.
Right.
The majority of people stayed home and didn't vote, and that, again, those people should be held accountable too. Like, this is your fault for not going out to vote. We didn't like the choices, but you should have still made a choice.
Right. So what this is basically saying is making it. You can interpret is bend the knee to the president.
Yeah.
Right. That whatever he wants, whatever he says goes. It's improve education by moving controlling funding of education from D.C. bureaucrats directly to parents and state and local governments. Well, we all know they're right now trying to shut down the Department of Education.
He can't do that, though.
Right.
Go on.
No, but I mean, how can you say that when you're telling people what they can and cannot read? You want that to be a national model. In some states, they've already implemented that. Mm-hmm. But you want what's happening in Florida and places of that where they ban books, right? That they want to make that a model across the country.
Well, actually, let's break that down, Larry, because I think a lot of people need to understand exactly why he's trying to shut it down. First of all, he can't do it in its entirety. He can gut it, by actually firing the people and let it just be a dormant department. he can do that. But shut it down completely without Congress, which I think he will do because he has Congress in his back pocket.
Yep.
Eventually. But what does the state, what does the Department of Education, what do they do? Well, they do not dictate, contrary to what most people might believe, they do not dictate curriculum.
They don't.
The state's
already doing that.
The states are already doing that. So when he argues that, they're doing a poor job dictating curriculum, that's a falsehood. Because I worked in Randolph Public School for 7 years.
Yeah.
The state of Massachusetts tell them this is what you will and will not do.
Right.
So what they do is that they actually administer the money.
Right.
You see, and that's where the issue is. So if I shut them down, I can actually control that money. I can use that money to to offset the tax breaks that I'm going to give these billionaires.
Right.
So that's why you have to understand. Okay, what is the rationale? What is the undergirding issue?
Yeah.
That actually, that he's using to close these departments. It's because of he needs to actually offset that tax break he's going to give the
because he wants to continue the one that he gave in his first term because it's expiring.
Exactly.
And he wants in this climate, it's going to be very difficult to justify giving another huge tax breaks to these people when prices of everything is going up.
So it sounds good to say I'm going to trim down government. Right. All right, but why? Where are you putting the fat? You see, who you giving the fat to? Right. That's a question that people got to ask.
The people that are already eating well at the hot trough, right? And also, we're seeing, and that's why I want to get you gentlemen's opinion, because we're seeing, like, with this presidential election, it was bought by Elon Musk, right? Now there's a race going on for the state Supreme Court in Wisconsin, in which Elon Musk is trying to inject all this money in there to buy that because he's doing business in it. I mean, it's right there, the emoluments clause, where he is profiting from these government contracts. He has a business in front of the Supreme Court in Wisconsin with his Tesla, and now he's trying to buy that seat. This is why when the Supreme Court said, okay, you can infuse as much money as you want, when people were challenging and saying, this is what's going to happen because millionaires and billionaires have the money to influence elections, as Elon Musk showed us on the national level, right? When he was paying people to vote for Donald Trump.
Pretty much.
Like it was a lottery system, right? And this is someone who people understand, a lot of people don't understand. Elon Musk is from South Africa.
That's right.
The heart of apartheid.
Yes.
Where black people still don't have many rights, but where, it was legal still in modern times to discriminate openly against black people just because they were black. I'm not saying it still doesn't happen in this country, but there were laws. There were no protections. And now he came here supposedly on a student visa. He didn't even attend one class. Yeah. Started up a business. He should have been deported.
Under what's happening today.
Right. Right. And now all of a sudden, he's running the United States because Donald Trump is just his puppet. He's pulling the strings because of the money. But this is, goes to the incompetency. Dr. Bradley, you served in the military. If you had got on Signal or sent me a text message, invited me and Brother Rhodes to hear what you guys were planning to bomb someplace, and say that those were not classified.
I have Signal right here on my phone.
Okay.
All right.
You could have gotten that call then.
Exactly. I mean, that is the most appalling thing. I mean, to sit there and try to cut the banana short, thin, to say, well, this is not classified, but this is sensitive. That's nonsense. You have blow by blow, time by time, delivery systems and all that. Before it happens on that line. I would have been in Leavenworth. I would have been actually locked up. And they know it, but most Americans, they understand that. They understand that, these guys. And then this is the other thing. Everything is about Joe Biden. Right. They're using what happened 4 years ago. Joe Biden, right. This is what happened. Man, we're not talking about that. Joe's done. All right, let's deal with what's happening today. What you did was, as a military man, you put those guys' lives and those women's lives at risk, in jeopardy, because you want to have a conversation on a platform where you do not have to archive that information and give it over to the government.
There you go.
That's what they're trying to do. So,
That's right.
and when I feel that was not the only time.
No.
That was they just got caught this time. But most of the conversation, and Russia knows that. And think about it, Witkoff, or whatever that guy's name, he was in Moscow.
Right.
You know, getting his instructions from Putin, by the way.
Right.
You know, and then he probably laid it out and said, this is what's happening.
Right. But also,
Come
you know,
on.
to that point, you know, because when we're talking about autocratic leaders, right? Again, right out of the Putin playbook, right? And then the president of China wanting to invade other countries. He wants to Taiwan. Now Donald Trump and his vice president is over in Greenland, right? Telling them they want to invade Canada, ally in Greenland. These folks are not going for that. I mean, when did we start attacking free countries?
When Donald Trump became president,
Well,
and
you know.
he's actually the bully in chief. That's what he is.
I like that.
That's
The
all
bully.
he is. It's just a bully. And again, no one's he's never gotten punched in the face to actually understand, like, you know, getting hit back with power. He's gotten away with everything over his life. People giving him a pass, and again, people are still giving him a pass and not being an adult and saying, like, this is wrong, you're wrong, and I'm going to say no to you. Okay,
Well,
that's the problem. No one's ever said no to him.
That's true. Even his father.
Yeah.
But here's the thing as well. People claim that they elected Donald Trump because he was going to fix the economy, and if you can't even fix your own problem,
Yeah. How many times did he file bankruptcy?
6 or 7 that I
Okay.
know of, right?
All right, so-
Trump Airlines,
Yeah.
the
Trump
university,
yeah.
right, the steak,
yeah.
the water,
The university,
casino.
that's a farce.
the
That was
casino,
yeah.
right? So,
Exactly. How do you lose money opening up a casino?
hello,
I'm like,
unless
how-
you,
yeah.
the only people that lose usually people that go there and put their money in,
Yeah.
right? But
I've never seen a casino shut down except when it got too old and they're like, okay, the new casino next door is attracting more people.
Right.
But it never got shut down because, we're not
They
making
lose
enough
money.
money.
I said it because if you have someone who claims to have all this knowledge and you're so intelligent, but one thing he is a good snake salesman, right? Snake oil salesman, because he had these people believing this. And he claims that by the next day, once he was inaugurated, prices were like Walmart. They were going to just fall, right? Prices were going to roll back, right? Everything has gone up. The stock market yesterday crashed pretty much, right? The inflation is through the roof. These new tariffs, and now people have scrambling, Dr. Bradley and Rhodes. The most researched word now is, what is a tariff? What is a tariff?
You've been telling them.
What is a tariff, right? It's a fancy word for a tax. Right? And just like,
Who pays it?
who paid for the wall? Have we received a check from Mexico?
But, you know, I saw something on the internet the other day that I thought was very clever. Kamala Harris did not lose. America lost.
Absolutely.
I said, that really sums it up.
You're absolutely right, because think about what you just said, Dr. Bradley. These same people that are now out there protesting at these town halls voted for Donald Trump.
I mean, I saw something that was like, why are you complaining? Why are you?
My little brother over there is like,
It's like, why are you complaining about, you know, a woman dying because she couldn't have an abortion? You
Yeah.
voted for this.
Right.
I mean, you're in Florida
Right.
complaining about this, but you voted for it. He won Florida.
right. How many times you said it? It's the dog that caught the car.
That's right. You're like, I can't drive this thing.
What
What
am I
can
gonna do with it now?
What can I
Right?
do with it?
Hey, it's not a bone, right? I can't. But you're right. You know, I mean, it's and see, whenever it gets hot on them, brother, then they try to go back to this deflection, the shiny object, what they know people are not so turned off by seeing people deported out of this country,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
To move away from, because you said, oh, you know, it was just for lack of hyperbole, that I was going to get things fixed. So now it's going to take time, right? We were moving in the right direction under the Biden administration, right? Inflation was down,
Yeah.
and what he was doing was cleaning up
The
The
whole
mess
the mess that Trump left
the,
him.
the whole world was envious of our economy,
Right.
When Biden was in office. But but again, whenever you challenge the Trump administration or any one of his members, or any one of the clowns, they want to talk. They want to change the narrative, and they want to talk about what Biden did or what Biden didn't do, or
but
what happened during that administration.
Understood. It is understood, but again, why was no one in the media fact checking every time they put out a lie? Why was no one ever saying this is a lie? This is how we rebut this particular statement.
People found it as entertaining, right? Because when you would get up there and make these comments and call them Little Marco and all that, people allow, I was like, oh, this is fun. This is entertaining. Watching them eat their own. But now we're dealing with the reality of incompetence, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and even what's even more chilling as well, look at all of these major law firms that are capitulating and saying, okay, we're making deals. We'll give you $40 million of pro bono work, or we won't say that. In these universities that are saying, we're going to enforce and we're going to try to shut down free speech on our campuses. Colleges and universities were the place where independence started. If you were going on those campuses to be able to see something wrong and to get with like-minded people and say something. This is just reminiscent of Nazi Germany.
Absolutely.
But that's the only book from
the Thought Police
that he ever read.
Yeah,
was Mein Kampf.
The Thought Police. Again, that's part of 1984.
Right.
Again, like if you're thinking this, okay, you're gonna go to jail for even thinking it. So
right. We're gonna come and it is to invoke fear in people. Because Dr. Valley, you teach at several different colleges. What is the climate like on the campuses? And also,
Fear.
What from fear?
Fear. I'll be very honest with you. It's fear. It's not only on the campuses, as it relates to how people are interacting and moving around outside. It's also in the classrooms, because you're not quite sure what's going to happen. And so he is actually stymieing and blocking education, free thought. And that, but that's the same thing that happened in Nazi Germany. So you can see the parallels. The question becomes, what are we going to do about it? Or are we just going to speak on it? Or are we just going to actually say, okay, I'm going to try to hold on until 2026, until we can actually get something in place. If they win it, because the Democrats have their issues too.
Absolutely.
I was going to talk about that as it relates to the Ed Davis issue. They have their issue. How they deal with one thing, they say one thing and they do another.
Absolutely.
Well, there's several elections coming up. There's 2 special elections for those vacant congressional seats in Florida that should be, normally, traditionally, were deep red, and those are now competitive. So we'll see how those turn out. And then the race in Wisconsin, where Elon Musk is trying to buy the state Supreme Court seat, right, because he has business before there, and he's spending. They said that right now they've spent over $100 million on a state race for a judge. I mean, that's unheard of, unprecedented that is taking place. But I want to go back to what you just said a moment ago when you talk about the classroom, because that's where you want to have these spirited engagements, right, where students are disagreeing and debating, right? And you're saying that really people are afraid to engage in a way that they would have.
Well, yeah. They're afraid to ask, and more importantly, when you're designing courses, in fact, I'm designing one today, a research writing course. When you're designing courses, you're making a decision. Am I going to put this particular topic in this course and encourage conversation among my students about this particular issue? Now, you don't know who's sitting in that course, what their background is. You know what I mean? So exactly. You're pushing for conversation, open and honest dialogue about a particular issue, but you're not quite sure, because you don't want to put yourself in jeopardy or your institution in jeopardy because of this. So you really destroying the whole freedom of thought and speech.
But I think he's destroying the economy as well. We see that, right? And not just the stock market, but, because a lot of these students come to this country because they can have those debates in the classroom that they couldn't have in some of the countries that they come from, right? To be able to speak that way, right? What's the purpose of coming here now? If you might as well stay where you are.
Well, unless you have a professor like myself who say, I really don't care, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? I'm not. You're not stopping me. I wore the uniform, Larry.
Right.
I wore American military uniform.
Yeah.
I put myself on the line. No, I'm not going to let this orange buffoon stop me from making making a conversation that's covered under the Constitution. Right. It's just not going to happen.
Right. So, Brother Rose, what's the word on the street? Because in the Haitian community, because I should drive through Mattapan Square, and I see less people out and about. Like there used to be a lot of folk. There's a Haitian office in Madison
Yeah,
Square.
IFC, which is the Immigrant Family Service Institute. And then again, they're still serving people, but again, there is a lot of fear amongst the people. Some people, like I said, because of the fear of deportation, some people like afraid to go to work. People are afraid to go to the hospital. Sending their kids to school. So again, it's a lot. You're dealing with a lot, and explaining to people, okay, these are your rights here. Again, the right to remain silent, and if you do get picked up by ICE, demand a lawyer. Do not say anything. Don't sign anything. Just kind of keep them abreast to what they should be doing or what they're, again, in case something does happen. But again, some people are going to work and doing living their day lives without any issue. But again, a lot of people are not.
But I think a lot of it is when you see these, in like the Venezuelan thing there, it was clearly orchestrated. It was like a movie, right? And that was to be able to keep playing that back and invoking that fear in people that this could happen to you if you disagree with this government. This could happen to you because there was another student in Colombia who left and went to Canada, because of what happened to one of the other students that's being held in the jail in Louisiana. On an immigration situation where even if you're in this country illegally and you get arrested, you're still entitled to due process.
Exactly. And then so the idea that is being thrown out the window, that they're ignoring the law.
I mean, but guys, I hate to be, with a spontaneous interruption like this, but I have to say this. I am really, I would say, for lack of a better term, I know what I want to say. I'm disappointed. I would use another adjective if I were not in the church. But I'm disappointed in how the Congress has just relinquished and just freely given up their equal branch of authority over this issue. You know what I mean? I'm disappointed over the fact that Congress can actually threaten to shut funding down for district federal judges because they disagree with Donald Trump. I am disappointed that the Republican Party has not done their job, their due diligence to maintain democracy in our country, to actually protect the people that they so ready to represent. Where are we going, man?
I don't think they ever really represented the people. They represent the money.
Right.
Again, that's what, unfortunately, with capitalism, the golden rule is he who has the gold makes the rules. And they've been making the rules for centuries. And again, this country's been addicted to free labor, so they want to try to go back to it as they don't want to put the word slave to it. But again, if they can put you in prison and make you or put you under some sort of court system where you're being supervised by the court, then they can justify abusing you and using you as free labor. So I think that's their ultimate goal, is to go back to slavery, but they don't want to say that. They just want to keep putting you know how they say, you can throw when you throw the frog into the boiling water, it'll jump out. Like, he can't go straight up and be like, I'm making y'all slaves. But if he gradually does it, he turns up the heat, all of a sudden you're there and you're like, how did we get here again? So, and that's what they're doing. They're doing the long-term play, and the threat to democracy has always been there, and it's been the enemy from within, and we have not recognized it. The fact that when they start attacking education, they start attacking free speech. Book burning should not be in a democracy. Secrecy should not exist in democracy. Democracy is supposed to be like open ideas for people to be able to discuss and do it freely, not having backroom deals and certain things being done. But again, like I said, in capitalism, it's he who has the gold makes the rules, and they've been making the rules for centuries.
What was that saying back there, Dr. Bradley? You said it when one of the founders of the Constitution said, "Do we have a democracy?
If we can keep it."
That
was Benjamin Franklin.
Franklin, right?
And he wasn't a politician. No. He was one of the few people that was actually a diplomat. That was
he was a lover, though.
Yes.
He was a lover.
He must have been from Virginia.
Actually, he's from Massachusetts.
617-282-0685. 617-282-0685. You're listening to At the Round Table. Folks, is this invoking, I'm not going to say fear, but is it invoking you to empower yourself, because I think for a long time, I think folks have gotten comfortable, Dr. Bradley and Rhodes, that no matter who the president was, I should say, in that White House, that things didn't really change for them, right? Especially folks on a lot of the public assistance that they got and their rights, and to protest at colleges, or cutting education in the way that they're doing, public assistance, Social Security, right? All of these things that people just, because most politicians knew that was the third rail, especially that Social Security. They're saying now, they want to put that chainsaw to that, saying that people could go without, like the guy who was a multi-billionaire there, that's the head of, I think it was the Commerce, that said that his 90-something-year-old mother-in-law, if she missed a check, she would not be complaining. If my son-in-law is a billionaire, I shouldn't even be getting a check. Right? He should be taking care of her. So to say that somehow she would not miss it.
It just goes to show you the level of hypocrisy.
Right. But did you also see
let them eat cake?
Right. Where I guess this is where, like I said, the government's not perfect. Where when they make a mistake and they've been overpaying some people. Have you guys seen this? So they've been overpaying people sometimes more than they should get every month.
Yes.
And when they catch up with them, the Biden administration said that, okay, the most they can recoup from you each month is 10%. They're going to get it all back, but they're only going to take 10% of it. Donald Trump just signed an executive order that
100%.
if they 100%. So if you've been getting overpaid, let's say for the last year, right, and we know that that's going to destitute a lot of people, that they're not going to wait to get it every month. They're taking all of it. Not 10% of it till you pay it off, every dime.
Well, you see, you mentioned something that concerns me that also that people got to pay attention to. How many bills has Donald Trump submitted to Congress for consideration to law?
None. All executive orders.
So what he's doing when he does an executive order, he's skirting.
Right.
He's going around Congress. He's not going through the regular
proper
process.
process, yes.
So what it's doing is that he's becoming the autocrat.
Right.
Yes.
Through executive orders.
Right.
Yes.
Now, granted that executive orders are only alive as long as he is in office, but it does have power.
Right.
You know what I mean? The executive order has to be followed because it's coming from his office. So what he's doing, he's clearly circumventing the whole process.
Right.
All right. So right now, currently, our democracy is on life support at best, because the process of actually turning a bill into a law, that whole process has been pushed to the side.
But I'll add this to what you're saying, because I think you bring a very good point. But I think what he's also done is that he is fast tracking these things to the courts, because he feels like he's going to get better relief from them, right? Because he knows these are going to be challenged, like he's saying now. He knew that this whole thing about birthright citizenship, and also this whole thing about he's invoking this because we're at war with Venezuela, when that's not true. Normally these things would have to go through the Congress would have to change that. But if he can get the courts, he feels like, he said, this is Donald Trump, his appointees there. If he can get the court to say
Make
what
a
he's
ruling on
doing
it,
is
yes.
right, he doesn't have to go through Congress.
Well, see, the thing is that, again, this is why I believe he's getting his instructions from Putin, because he's attacking each component of our triadic government. All right, that's the first issue. The second thing I notice is that when Putin can give him these instructions on how to attack the court, but Putin had to deal with the Constitution.
Right.
All right, he didn't have to deal with that. So I think what's happening is that the support he thinks he has at the Supreme Court is not as strong as he think it is, because now he's attacking their.
What did they expect?
Their branch.
They said to him that he has all the power.
Yeah.
And they've said, we have given it to you. We are circumventing our authority. We're saying that you are now a king. We are anointing you a king, and you can commit crimes in broad daylight.
But Larry, the Supreme Court can always go back and say, well, that was a terrible decision. We're going to change as of this day. We're going to change.
But do you have that much faith in them? Because I don't.
Oh no, I don't have that much faith. I don't have that
not.
much faith in this court that's sitting. But what I will say is that if you are attacking the houses around me, I'm okay. But when you start attacking my house, my attitude is going to change a little bit about what I have given you. All right, and so I think that's what's happening. I think he's not going to get the level of support in the court system that he thinks he's going to get.
I think I'm hoping you're right, but like I said, with some of the decisions, because you still have some like Clarence Uncle Thomas and a few others who, no matter what Donald Trump says, I mean, his wife was out there on in the insurrection line, Clarence Thomas, so that whatever he does is okay by them. as long as he's doing it to those people.
Yeah, but I think you're going to see some of those justices put this at a halt, because But again, the problem here is that have they waited too long? Because the court does not have an enforcement arm.
Right.
All right. It doesn't have it. The enforcement arm for the court resides in the
executive branch.
Right. You know, that's people like you and I who carry badges. You know, we're the one who we're the teeth behind the law. Other than that, the law is just paper.
You have incompetence in those in the top league. You saw that on the Signal chat, right? You have people who clearly don't know what they're doing. The Secretary of Defense, Hegseth, has no clue.
He was probably drunk.
Right. This is like he can't believe his luck that he is heading up one of the most powerful branches of government, the Department of Defense. A commentator. Everything with Donald Trump is about theatrics, not about incompetence. And then you get rid of a 4-star general, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, claiming he's a DEI hire. And then you turn around and everything you hired is a DEI, the incompetence. And a lot of these senators who voted for it, you can't have buyer's remorse now.
Well, see,
you knew that.
See, the problem is, and this goes to show you the hypocrisy. Now, if Austin would have done what his head chef did, it would have been a DEI. He's incompetent. Now, head chef does it. It's like, well, you know, we all make mistakes.
Right.
At that level, are you kidding me?
Let's just take that for Lloyd Austin, who was this former Secretary of Defense under Joe Biden, when he didn't report to the president, which he should have, that he had some health issues.
Yeah.
Right. That somehow that compromise.
It was a problem.
And everything else was, he had spoken to enough people where the country was not in any danger because he had competent people. But they said, hey, he should resign. You're going to put our men and women in harm over this and then still take no accountability.
Yeah. Actually start changing the narrative. Well, I remember 4 years ago when we actually exited, I was like, that happened 4 years ago. What about now?
Right.
The fact that you would actually put such sensitive information on a public application, a public platform, it's just appalling.
But they're going out of the Donald Trump playbook, right, where it's attack the victim, right?
But here's the thing, too. Again, every time you call them, try to make them accountable for what they've done, they always turn around and blame someone else.
Well, they blame the victim.
Yeah.
They blame the victim because they're blaming the reporter who they
included on this.
Right.
And they blame the reporter for reporting, for doing his job.
They said, then they're trying to put it out there in the atmosphere that, maybe he hacked it. No, he was invited to the conversation. He didn't believe it was true because he was like, this can't be. They can't be that stupid, to invite, because that could have been anybody else. But we also know that, as secure as people think Signal is, the Russians, people know how to hack. That's why, Dr. Riley, that's why communications of that magnitude would not be on Signal, right?
No.
But here's the other thing, gentlemen. You notice there were no military.
Yeah, no uniform.
No, right, on that.
No uniform on
no
that
Joint Chiefs, because one of them would have said,
this is not appropriate. We're not doing this. You know what I mean? Because you have assets, you have men and women, you have equipment actually going a couple of hours taking off to do this. Some
of it in the air already.
It doesn't take Einstein to calculate how long it's going to take to go from where that carrier is to this location. And I don't have to know what the precise location. I just protect it all.
And then Yemen has the resources. They've done it in the past to shoot down our planes, our drones.
Yes.
So to say, and I think of all of them, Marco Rubio was a senator. He was armed in the committee. He knew better. Yeah. He was kind of careful. He's like, I don't want to rock the boat because I got to go along to get along. Yeah. But he knew that was inappropriate.
It was complete incompetence. Complete incompetence.
Gabby Gifford, right? The DNI. She's the one who's supposed to make sure that all of this is secure, right? These are the people who are overseeing all our national. So I've said it before in this broadcast.
But that's a DEI hire. Mm-hmm. They're all DEI hires.
What ally country of ours that we're fighting with anyways, most of them, right? But do you think that the folks, our allies in Europe and Canada, are going to be sharing sensitive information with the gang that can't shoot straight?
Larry, I wouldn't.
No.
I mean, if I were,
I wouldn't tell them it was Saturday.
I wouldn't do it.
Let alone anything of
Because again, there's something there is something about the fact that Witkoff was in Moscow.
right.
He was in Moscow when that took place.
Exactly.
All right, so
That should tell you everything
I'm telling
right
you,
there.
there's something. It doesn't pass the smell
Yeah,
test.
there's a big significance to
You
him
know?
being there and
Yeah,
that being discussed
at
way.
that time.
Yes.
And there's something behind it. But unfortunately, we do not have the people in place that would do a fair
Right.
and honest investigation and lay all the cards on the table and say this is what's happening. All right, but there's something that's going to come back to haunt them.
Well, I think even somebody, because and it's very few, because I mean, you should be, if you take an oath to the Constitution, not to Donald Trump, because that's what all these folks, that was the only test you had to pass. Are you going to be blindly loyal to Donald Trump? In the first administration, they had adults, people who said, no, this is the Constitution, something he has never read, and they wouldn't go cross that third rail. Now everyone is on board with, I'm going to do
That was the
whatever.
criteria.
Right. Because did you hear what Marjorie Taylor Greene said to the reporter from that?
from BBC.
Yeah, like, we don't have to listen. You're not from. I'm like, what? Because you're not from this country.
No.
You don't have to be heard. I mean, this is not Russia.
This is one of your allies who are giving you information, and she reporting to the people that are funding the government that's giving you information. You're saying, but you know what? But I'll leave it alone.
No.
But consider the source. Put it that
Yeah,
way. Consider the source.
Yeah, I mean, this is
Intellectual
beyond
lightweight.
pale. That we are having this conversation in the United States about the basic freedoms, freedom of speech, right? Things that have been, part of the heart of this country, right? And now, because that's what it is to invoke fear, so that people don't uprise. People, like you said, on the college campuses, I think people are not. Our lawyers are. Lawyers are saying, "Well, we're not going to take any case. If Donald Trump doesn't like it, and we're only going to represent things that he likes."
Yeah, that is.
No backbone.
If that doesn't chill you,
Yeah.
That's autocracy.
Yeah.
right?
I'm telling you, our democracy is on life support at best,
Yes.
if not
you're-
already dead.
Just imagine if you're in you're in college, right?
Wow.
And you want to be an immigration. Why would you want to be an immigration attorney, knowing that you're not going to get any business, that this is something that Donald Trump doesn't want, immigrants, and that he thinks they have no rights? What law firm are you going to work for?
We don't have a democracy, Larry.
It's
Because
gone.
It's gone. I'm telling you, people need to stop and think about this. Think about what you saw on television when officers were actually surrounding this young lady. Although she's a student, but she's here legally.
Yeah.
She has constitutional right. Think about what you saw when people were being marched off a bus with their heads down and they were taking videos of
Right.
it. All right. Think about the idea that you are going to work every day. You're legally here, and then you don't come back home because you're in Venezuela. You're in a prison someplace in South America.
Right.
Think about the fact that all this is happening without due process.
Right.
You do not have a democracy.
Right.
No, we do
How about
not.
let's take it a step. You guys, the latest thing, the insurrectionists that stormed the Capitol.
You want to pay them.
Want to give reparations.
Yeah.
He wants to give them tax dollars.
Yeah.
That somehow they were harmed.
Yeah.
They were harmed.
How about my people? How about our people?
What about the police officers? What about the police officers that were defending the
what
Capitol
about the
building?
black people who?
What about the black people who built this
country?
Yes.
Right? About reparations. Oh, we can't. But folks who went to jail, who were found guilty of crimes, should be compensated for it. Folks, wake up!
Yeah.
Wake up! We are in some real serious times here.
We got some serious issues. Man.
I never thought that in my lifetime I would be dealing with some of the issues that my ancestors and folks who came before us had to deal with in this way. I thought we had made some progress in this country.
Well, I put it this way: we made some pseudo progress.
Yeah.
Now I emphasize the word pseudo, but we never addressed the real issue, and that's the issue of reconciling for slavery.
Yeah.
We have never addressed that issue, and that's the scab that Putin is pulling off.
Do we need to go and storm the Capitol in order to become patriotic?
We will be
Killed.
lying in the gutter.
Yeah.
And our blood would be flowing down the streets of Washington if we did what those white folks
if
did.
we can get close.
Even close to that.
What we got for time over there, my brother?
3 minutes.
All right. 3 minutes. He said at our 8 o'clock hour, we're going to be talking about the mayor's race. This according to the Boston Globe today. O'Brien.
Well, brother, listen.
Yeah.
Every time I think about this mayor, I think about what happened with the Ed Davis.
Well, that's why I know
the Ed Davis situation really, because that is the issue with Democrats. That's the issue that black people have with Democrats, in my opinion.
The hypocrisy.
You say one thing, but you do something entirely different. And at least with the Republicans, I know they don't like me. I know they can't. They repudiate the idea that someone that look like me could even exactly. But you sit there and you talk about being fair, and then you write a RFP to actually just identify this white man who has not a clue about what it's like to patrol the streets of Boston. Yeah, he was a police officer, but in a small town,
right?
Not in a city.
Right.
You know what I mean? He never said and did a detail in a city. So when I heard about that, I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Right? How is he the authoritarian on
Exactly.
Boston?
Exactly.
He doesn't. He wasn't.
Exactly.
The police commissioner. He doesn't know the ins and outs.
It's crazy.
Of the city of
it's
Boston.
crazy. So you're going to sit there and you're going to say, well, you're fair as you're covering for everyone, and then you actually, finagle the bagel for this guy who doesn't know what he's doing.
Well,
he's just talking a good game.
We're going to get into the mayor's race because
on.
it's coming in our 8 o'clock hour. You've been listening to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. We've been able to keep Brother Rhodes awake for an hour. Our new engineer has been taking a nap, though.
Well, we won't mention that. Yeah. Well, it's already mentioned.
Well, we got it, yeah. All right, we'll take our break. We'll be right back. Good morning, my brother. Is this your nephew?
No, he's